Hi guys, you're welcome back to the channel. I'm Cilla Travis. So today I want to do an updated version of my previous tutorial. This is a tutorial on how to draft a basic bodice pattern. Okay, so I'm still going to be using the same method that I used in my previous tutorial, but I'm just going to be making slight changes and also give you guys some few tips and tricks when it comes to creating your pattern. Okay, this bodice is a bodice that I intend to use with a sleeve. Okay, so there will be a slight difference on the side seam measurement which I use in getting my armhole depth. Okay, now one important measurement you need to take which will help us determine the armhole depth is your side seam length. Okay, now for the sleeve block, I would advise you put a ruler that is 2 inch wide under your armpit and then tie a string around your waistline. Then measure from the bottom of the ruler to the string around your waistline. Whatever that gives you is the side seam length we're going to be using for the sleeve block. Normally when I take my side seam measurement, I usually use a ruler that is like 1 inch wide. Okay, then I put this under my armhole and then I measure from the bottom to my waistline, and this usually gives me 8.5 inches. And then I have to subtract 1 inch from that 8.5 inches to get the side seam length that I need to use to create my bodice with sleeve. Okay, so let's get started. Now the first measurement I'm going to mark in is my back waist length. So this line is my center back line. Next I'm going to draw out my across shoulder measurement, which is 7 3/4. Now from this point I'm going to mark my bust divided by 4 plus 3/4 of an inch. So that 3/4 of an inch is going to act as an ease around the armhole. Okay. From this point, I'm going to square up a vertical line that equals my side seam measurement. So the wideness of this rectangle is 9 3/4. Now on the waistline, I'm going to mark my back waist measurement plus my dart width. This is it here. From this point, I'm going to come down 3/16 of an inch, making sure it's on the right angle. Okay. So I came down 3/16 of an inch because this will enable me to create the natural curve of the waistline. Our natural waistline is not straight. Okay, it's usually a curve. Okay, so coming down 3/16 of an inch will enable you to create the curve of the waistline, which I'm going to demonstrate later on. The next measurement we're going to impute is the side seam length. I'm going to take my side seam measurement and place it here, and then I'm going to pivot the tape until it touches this vertical line. Now from this point, I'm going to square a horizontal line to the center back line. So you need to make sure that this line is straight. Next, I'm going to take my cross shoulder measurement and mark it on the bust line. So from the center back line, I'm going to impute this measurement. And then I'm going to connect this point to the shoulder. Next, I'm going to get my shoulder slope measurement. To get your shoulder slope, divide your across shoulder measurement into 10. Next, from this point, I'm going to place my shoulder length measurement until it touches the across shoulder line. My shoulder length I'm working with is 5 1/4. I'm going to place it here. Next, I'll connect both points together to form the shoulder seam. Next, we're going to create the armhole. Take the distance from this point to the bust line and then mark the midpoint. I'm going to come in from this point and mark in 1/4 inch. Next, I'm going to take my French curve and connect these 3 points together. This is going to be a fitted bodice, okay? So I'm supposed to impute my dart. If you don't want that, you can just go ahead and just draw the curve like so, okay? But because I want a dart, I'm going to extend the shoulder with 1/2 inch. So this is another way to create the shoulder dart. So this is my half. So now that this is done, I'll connect these 3 points together. So I'll go ahead and clean up the former line. Now this becomes my new armhole because I've added a dart to the shoulder. But if you don't want a shoulder dart, just go ahead and connect this point through this point down to the bust line. To draw the neckline, I'm going to measure upward from my waistline, my nape to waist measurement. And then I'm just going to square in a line that is like 1 inch long. And then take my French curve and connect to draw the neckline. So I want this bodice to have a center back dart. And now from here on the waistline, I'm going to mark in 1/2 inch, or you can do 1 centimeter, which is 3/8 inch, whatever you choose. Now you can connect this point to the center back neck point, which I do sometimes, but for this tutorial, what I'm going to do is to mark the midpoint between the center back neck and the bust line. And then I'm going to connect the dart to this point. Remember, I came down from this point 3/16 inch. So now I'll connect this point to this point. So I'm going to just double check to make sure it equals my side seam. And it does. Okay. So next we're going to plot the darts. From the center back, I'm going to mark my bust to bust measurement, which is here. Now because I've already removed a center back dart, if I measure what is left, I have 3 1/4. And if I go ahead to take my dart from on this side, on both sides of this point, that means I will have less than 3 inches here. But I do not want less than 3 inches after taking my darts, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come here and mark my dart. So my dart width that is remaining is 3/4 inch. I'm going to mark it here. And then I'm going to mark the midpoint between these 2 points. So from this midpoint, I'm going to square a line to touch the bust line. Remember I said I'm going to be giving some few tips and tricks, okay? One way to get your dart length for the back bodice is to take the measurement of your side seam and subtract 1 inch. My side seam is 7.5, and if I remove 1 inch, it's going to be 6.5. So this is 6.5, it's going to be here, okay? So you can choose to start your dart line here, but what I like to do most time is just start my dart on my bust line. It's totally fine. So for me, I want to start my dart from this point. So I'm going to extend the dart with 1/8 inch, which is here. Okay, this is here. So by extending it with 1/8 inch, we'll be able to draw the natural curve of the waistline. So what I'm going to do now is to take my French curve and position it like so. and then draw the curve. So to draw my shoulder dart, I'm going to mark the midpoint of my shoulder, and then I'm just going to draw a line from this point to meet my dart. I'm going to use broken lines. I'm going to mark 3 inches down. This is going to be the length of my dart. Now on both sides of this line, I'm going to mark my dart width of 1/2 inch. So on both sides, I'm going to mark 1/4 inch. Remember, we extended the shoulder line with 1/2 inch, okay, to create the dart. So this is one way to create the dart. And then I'm going to connect to form the dart. Next, I'm going to close the dart and through the shoulder seam. And guys, we're done. The next thing you need to do is to take your armhole width, okay? Now from the top line, I'm going to mark my front waist length. Now I'm going to connect to form the waistline. I'm going to mark my bust divided by 4 plus 3/4 inch. The reason I'm adding 3/4 inch after dividing my bust into 4 is because I want to have at least 2 inches around my bust circumference after sewing the pattern, okay? So that is why I'm doing this. But if you want less amount of ease around your bust, then you can either add 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch, but just make sure you had some amount of ease. This is this point. Now from this point, I'm going to mark upward my side seam measurement. So this is 7.5, which is here. I'm just going to square upward a line. This is going to act as a guide. So this is my center front, this is my side. Now from the center front, I'm going to mark my waist divided by 4 plus my dart width, okay? So to get your dart width for the front, let's say your waist divided by 4 is 7. Let's say this is 7. Then you measure what you have left and divide it into 2. So what I have left is 2 3/4. Okay, when you divide it into 2, you have 1 3/8. So that 1 3/8 inches becomes your dart. Okay, that's another way to get your dart width. Mark your waist measurement first, divide what you have left into 2, and 1/2 of it becomes your dart width. Okay, I really do not like to divide my waist into 4 and use that measurement. What I usually do is divide my waist into 4, then for the back I subtract 1/4 inch, then for the front, that 1/4 inch I subtracted from the back, I add it to the front. So let's say my waist is 29. If I divide it into 4, that will give me 7.25. Okay, now for the back, I'm going to subtract 1/4 inch from that 7.25, and then that will give me 7. So I'm going to use 7 for my back waist measurement. While for my front waist measurement, I'm going to divide my waist into 4, then take that 1/4 inch I subtracted from the back and add it to the front. So that's what I usually like to do, okay? But you can go ahead and divide your waist circumference into 4. It's totally fine, which is here for me. And then I'm going to divide what I have here into 2, and this is like 2 inches. So 2 inches divided by 2 is 1. 1 inch becomes my dart width. So my dart width for the front is 1 inch. So this is it. So this becomes my front waist measurement plus 1 inch for dart. Like we did for the back, I'm going to come down from the waist 3/16 of an inch, which will enable me draw my waistline curve. Okay, this is it. Now from this point, I'm going to mark my side seam measurement. So you want to take the measurement until it falls on this vertical line. This is 7.5 here. And then I'll square a line from this point to this point. So I'm going to just use broken line for now. Okay. And now I'm going to connect my side seam. On the top line, I'm going to mark my across shoulder measurement for the front, which is usually 1/4 of an inch shorter than that of the back. Okay. If you measure your shoulder from the front and measure your shoulder from the back, you find out that your shoulder at the back is wider than your shoulder on the front. Okay. But I'm just going to go ahead and subtract 1/4 of an inch from my back measurement. So for my back, I use 7 3/4, while for my front, I'm going to use 7.5. And then I'm also going to mark 7.5 on this broken line. So right now I'm going to connect together. To get my shoulder slope, I usually just divide the shoulder into 10. So I'm going to use 1.5 for now. Okay. From this point, I'm going to mark my shoulder length measurement until it touches the top line. So my shoulder length is 5 1/4. This is it. So the next thing you want to do is to take the measurement from the center front to this neck width point. Okay. So you want to make sure that this measurement is not less than 2.5 inches, whether you are small or big. Okay. Of course, this measurement could be more than 2.5 inches if you are on a bigger size, but it should not be less than 2.5 inches for all sizes. Okay. It could be more, but it should not be less for all sizes, especially for the front. Okay. If it's less than, you want to make it at least 2.5 inches for the front bodice. So this is my neck width. To get my neck depth, I'm going to measure my center front length, which is 15 inches upward from the waistline. So that will make it 3 inches downward from the top line. You just draw a short line that is 1/2 inch long. All right, now you can go ahead and draw your shoulder seam. I just draw this line short. Now I'm going to take the distance from this point to the bust line and divide it into 3. Come in with 3/4 of an inch. Next, I'm going to take my French curve and connect. Next, from the shoulder line, measure down and mark your bust point. Now from the center front, just draw a line that equals your bust to bust measurement. So now you need to take the measurement of the armhole, because we need to adjust this armhole to be 1/2 inch less than the back armhole. You can make it of equal length, or you can make it 1/4 of an inch less than your back armhole, whatever you choose. But for this tutorial, I'm going to make my 1/2 inch shorter than my back armhole. Okay, this is 11 inches. So, but I want my front armhole to be 8 3/4, which is 1/2 of an inch less than my back armhole. I'm going to subtract 8 3/4 from 11 1/8. So it should be 2 3/8. So to do this, I'm going to slash a line from this point to make the bust point. So for now, I'm just going to start with 2 inches, okay? Because if I mark 2 3/8, it might just be too much. I'm just going to start 2 inches first, okay? And see how that goes. Okay, just connect this point to the bust point. So you want to close this dart and redraw the armhole, okay? So we're going to go ahead and redraw the armhole. Once you redraw the armhole, you want to go ahead and take the measurement again. I'm going to add more now. I'm just going to add 1/4 of an inch. Okay. And then I'll redraw it again. So I'm just going to measure from this point to the center front. So I still have my cross chest measurement with 3/16 of an inch, which is going to serve as ease. So let me go ahead now and measure the armhole. So at this point, it is still more than 8 3/4. So what I have here is 8 7/8 of an inch. So that means I need to take out 1/8. So that 1/8, I'm just going to come down from the shoulder slope and take it out. Okay. And I'm still going to measure just to make sure that I have my shoulder length measurement. So if you check from the back, you can see it has created this mold that's going to contain your bust, okay? To make this thing flat, I'm going to measure down 1 inch from the side seam. And then I'm going to connect this point to the bust point. Okay. Now we're going to slash this line open. Slip in a piece of paper and tape it down. So I'm just going to mark my bust point. So remember, this is where I have my side seam. Well, I came down here 1 inch, so I'll go ahead and just draw out the darts. We're good to go. Draw a straight line from this point to center front, okay? So as you can see, we already have 1 inch on this side seam, so that means I need 6.5 inches to complete my 7.5 inches side seam. So this is it. Now I'm going to connect this point to the bust point to form the dart. So now you want to close the dart and just through the side seam. Just draw a slight curve. And also do the same thing for the back. So on the waistline, I'm going to mark my bust to bust measurement, which is here, and then I'm just going to connect it to my bust level like so. My dart width is 1 inch, which I'm going to mark on both sides, and come down from this dart leg with 1/8 of an inch, which will enable us to through the waist. So we need to redraw the dart by coming down a certain amount, which I've already covered. So if the difference between your upper bust and your bust is 2 inches, you can come down with 1.5 inches, and you have to do the same thing with the bust dart. But I'm just going to do the waist dart for now, and once I copy this pattern to another pattern paper, I'm going to adjust the bust dart. You want to draw the dart line and come down from the waistline with 1/8 of an inch. Do the same for the other side. Come down from the waistline with 1/8 of an inch. Okay, this is my 1/8. Then I'll take my French curve. Remember, we came down from the side with 1/16 of an inch. So guys, I've gone ahead to copy my bodice. So this is my bust point. I came down from my bust point 1.5 inches because the difference between my upper bust and my bust is 2 inches. My upper bust is 34 while my bust is 36. Okay, and also I came out to redraw the side seam dart. Okay, so guys, I've gone ahead to cut out this pattern and I did not add any seam allowance, but it's very important to add your seam allowance before sewing this pattern. And then you want to go ahead and try out this pattern to see the fit on your body, and you can then make any adjustments just in case you are not happy with the amount of ease you have around the upper bust and around the bust. Okay, here guys, this brings us to the end of this tutorial. So thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time on my next video. Thank you so much. Bye bye.